Oh man, let me tell you something. It is not easy filming yourself looking diminutive when you are 6'2". I am in Seiza right now. I couldn't even get a chair here to make this all fit. So, hey everybody, this is Kodak here, and recently we got a video from the ever-clever Jenny Nicholson, who talked about the Star Wars Star Cruiser attraction at Walt Disney World. So for those of you who don't know, Jenny Nicholson is a YouTuber who mostly does things about like theme park attractions and stuff like that. She actually did work for Disneyland at one point, so she has more credentials to talk about it than I do. But she has a lot of these sort of fun, infectious videos where she films herself in front of a bunch of like her crazy plush toys and stuff like that. Like, I think before this video, her most famous one was about the time she took a road trip to go and get a giant spider, which she then took to a ranch and got a cowboy hat for. It is the least arachnophobic friendly video on YouTube.
Step 3, make a themed playlist of songs about spiders.
And if on the remote chance he's watching, hi Jenny, glad to see you here. Do you still need that snake rack? I might know a guy.
Part 1. The Phantom Menace.
The Star Wars Star Cruiser attraction at Walt Disney World is a resort attraction that has, you know, really interested me from a number of perspectives. It is just a culmination of things like how out of touch, you know, corporations and their heads have gotten. It's about excess. It's about the decay of the Walt Disney parks. It is a lot. I remember speculating about it a lot when it was first announced and when its closure was announced, but Jenny actually went. So it was very interesting to get the perspective of somebody who actually went to see what it was all about. And I have to say, I'm kind of surprised. I saw a lot of problems, although I was also able to think of a number of solutions that I would have done to make it better. So I know I don't normally do reaction content on this channel, but this is something that has interested me at a personal level as well. So here we go.
Part 2. Attack of the Bone-ifieds.
Okay, let's try cross-legged with a pillow. That might be more comfortable. Okay, so first of all, I want to talk about my bona fides. Call me crazy if you like, but I believe that reaction content like this should follow, like, Rule 702 for federal evidence standards and all that regarding professional witnesses. And, you know, if you don't give your bona fides, then you don't really have a right to speak. And let's just say it's been a frustrating few weeks where there have been a lot of people talking about Warhammer who clearly don't actually play it. It has been an experience. So what are my bona fides? I mean, I am a fair weather Star Wars fan. I don't think I have made any secret of that. But that's kind of the easy credentials. But yeah, I understand the movies. I've watched a lot of the sideshows. I haven't, like, read any of the novels, but I've, you know, perused some of the comics. I know enough to know what a Star War is. I know what a Star War is, and in that regard, I can talk about things, you know, like continuity, experience, all of that, although Jenny goes into far more detail than I. I'm going to be kind of trying to stick to the Cliff Notes version on it. I think it's hilarious that a few years ago she talked about like oh, look at my exhaustively researched video about this, and it's like 40 minutes long. It's like, oh, it's so long and ridiculous. Oh man, welcome to the new world. But I have also been to Walt Disney World. I have been to Walt Disney World several times. I first went when I was a teenager, and I most recently went when my nephew was less than 2. He is now 8. My stepmother has timeshares in the Disney Vacation Club. It's like the only timeshare worth having, and they actually allow you to save up your points and bank them for multiple years, or even pull ahead like a few years in advance. So like every few years, we just binge a bunch of points at once to get like the whole family out there. You know, it's wonderful. It's great. The points are actually fungible, so it's actually possible to share them. Like, believe it or not, there's like timeshare exchanges out there where people can like exchange timeshare points for timeshares in other places, you know, do all sorts of crazy things. Oh, I have a party that I want to do. It's like, oh, I can borrow some of this timeshare in exchange for your Disney Vacation Club points. It is our timeshare, comrade. But yeah, I've been enough times that I can say that from personal experience, I have noticed the decay of the parks. So like I said, the heyday was when I was like a teenager, when I was still in college, when we had those early trips. Back when Fast Pass was a booth at the ride that you had to walk up to and hit a button, and it spat out a little ticket with a time on it for when you were supposed to come back. In fact, it was sort of a hack that if you were there at rope drop, you had the more able-bodied members of your party just book it for a couple of rides to grab Fast Passes for everyone else. That was a hack we did to get on Soarin' a whole bunch. By the way, the new Soarin' is garbage compared to Soarin' California, because Soarin' California was filmed with a plane, while the new Soarin' was filmed with a drone, and you can tell there's just no sense of speed anymore. But another thing I remember Walt Disney World used to have was something called the Magical Express. I think Jenny talks about it, but the Magical Express was basically you arrived at the airport at Walt Disney World, and what the Magical Express did was if you were staying at a resort hotel, the Magic Express was basically a bus service, a bus shuttle that took you directly from the airport to the resort. So a really practical little thing, a really smart little thing. It sort of kept everything inside the loop. And it had just this hint of magic to it. It was really called the Magical Express. And I loved this thing. I actually saved like the videos that would play on the bus and the music on the bus. I actually have those saved on my hard drive because I liked it so much. It was such a brilliant idea, and they got rid of it recently, and it's really baffling to me because a lot of people would say that like Michael Eisner's decision to add like shuttle buses, like if you're at a resort hotel, there are like free shuttle bus services that will take you to all of the parks and like the shopping center and all the different resorts. Like something we do is we'd stay at Old Key West, and then we would like go to the Polynesian to have Tonga toast. It was really a better experience than what we get now. And the Magical Express, it was a shuttle bus with just a hint of magic to it, with like it was like decaled up to look like an old like Metroliner, and it was it had like introductions, so like the characters in costume and stuff. And something that Jenny talks about is immersion, and how they're always pushing immersion as this big buzzword. Well, the Magical Express was totally immersive. It was magic that started at the door. You get on that bus, and that bus gets you ready to have a Disney vacation. The first time I went to Disney World, I was a teenager, and I had a blast. And I think part of that is because the Magical Express helped prime me for what we were getting into. It was an incredible time. But yeah, I agree that the parks have decayed. Defunct Land did a video about Fast Passes and how while they used to be great, they have kind of become awful in an age where Disney can now charge for Fast Passes for people to get in line. Jenny Nicholson herself calls it the Spirit Airlinesification of Disney, where you get like a base rip-off price, but then they charge you, they just nickel and dime you for everything else. Where it used to be like an all-inclusive thing, which for a $6,000 stay is quite something. So, speaking of other bona fides, I am also an entertainer. I have a YouTube channel where I have to create content whole cloth. I'm not a reaction channel. This is one of the only reaction videos I have ever done, but it's because it's specifically about a topic that fascinates me. But I do feel like I have a bit of an emphasis on showmanship, and my videos about, entertaining systems and how to make them work. Like, Jenny's talking about her theories about how the system works, and I'll get into that later, and I'm thinking about, wow, there was a really dumb and basic way to fix those issues, and that's really what I wanted to get into it, so we might as well get started.
Part 3. Revenge of the Star Cruiser.
So, first things first, what is the Star Wars Star Cruiser attraction? I know a lot of people call it the Star Wars Hotel, but the idea is that it's supposed to be more an immersive experience, there's that word again, where you're not just staying there for the night and maybe a few meals. The idea is that there are actually, like, activities and an ongoing storyline while you're on this ship. There are, like, characters who you interact with and build the reputation meters with. I don't know if you get to date a skeleton, but you can I don't know, hit on a Rhodian, I guess. But the idea is that it's supposed to be this immersive experience where you're allegedly on like a space starship cruise liner going to wherever it is, and you watch as the ship enters light speed, and you turn on your window and it has like a screen of the stars outside, so it's supposed to be like this immersive experience. And it seemed like an interesting idea, but basically everybody balked at the price. They saw that this thing was being charged for essentially $1,500 per person per night. Jenny paid, a very devilish amount, like $6,600 or something for her and her sister to share a room. Rooms that were really small. Well, I mean, it was supposed to be like a cruise ship, but you don't pay like thousands of dollars to stay in steerage. Like, imagine if you paid $6,000 to go on the Titanic and they threw you in third class. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Jenny actually did some math and found that the equivalent price on an actual Disney cruise liner, that amount of money would get you like the nicest room on the ship. Some other people did the math where somebody from the United States for the same price to go out there could fly to Euro Disney and spend a week in Paris. It is a ludicrous amount of money for what is essentially a glorified LARP game. It's one where they do actually let you go out to the park for a few hours, but it's one that's like really contained. I can't imagine being claustrophobic in a place like this. She pointed out the sadness closets in the room, but everybody balked at the price. And that is why, even though this attraction was years in development, it is being shut down almost immediately because it has just been a massive disaster. And I would say a lot of that has to do with, just how out of touch the people in charge of these companies are. Like, you've all seen that clip where it's, how much could a banana be? $10? That has become less of a joke and more an accurate representation the more time goes on.
Basically, it's been the prevailing attitude at these companies where whoever's in charge is just one of a group of rich friends taking their turn, that they can charge whatever they want for the experiences they put out. It's why so many things have just arbitrarily gone up in price. It's because they think, we are this big and important company. Whatever amount we ask for, people will pay it.
The Star Cruiser is sort of a painful example of how the actual experience at the Disney parks have degraded. Like, they talk about how they have, these wonderful ideas on these new things they're going to build, and then they just kind of cheap out in the worst places. Although, based on Jenny's analysis, it seems like this attraction was trying to be too sophisticated for its own good, and I think that's kind of where the problems would be. Like, the idea is that once you get on the ship, and Jenny calculates that it's like $2 a minute to be on this ship, you basically have to sort of find the activities, find your own fun. The idea is it's supposed to be an immersive LARP, so you have to like find your own fun, figure things out. The problem was the way it worked is it was reliant on a phone app, and relying anything on any kind of, computer device that's not a part of the park is just asking for trouble. Like, the app is already not very good, according to what I've heard, but they are in Disneyland, which is a very busy place where everybody has their phone out taking pictures. There is a lot of digital noise. It's the same problem as like making games for computers. Not everybody has the same rig. Not everybody has the same access to the internet. It is asking for trouble, and according to Jenny, it was loads of trouble to try to get this app to work. It apparently malfunctioned frequently. Like, they went in there with a plan. They were deliberately going to try to get the first order events, but they wound up getting thrown into the resistance events through no fault of their own. They tried interacting with the cast. They tried going to the appropriate events. They tried to get a good view of the band and couldn't. They paid over $6,000 for this vacation, by the way, and they couldn't even get a good view of the live musical performance. It's just weird, okay? Like, it reminds me of like the commercials. There was a commercial where like they try to show off the Star Cruiser, and then this guy just kind of wanders into a bar that has like 5 or 6 people inside of it, and then the singer just kind of walks in and starts singing. It's really it's really weird and awkward. I mean, really, they couldn't get any extras on there. They couldn't, like, it's supposed to be the restaurant, so you'd think they'd have gone out of their way to, like, prepare the dishes and the drinks and, get a bunch of the cast members, as Disney calls their employees, and say, hey, we're going to film a promo for the Star Cruiser. If anybody wants to be a part of it, go and raid the prop room and dress up. It doesn't even have to be anything sophisticated. Like, you know who Dengar is? Dengar is like the cheapest costume you've ever seen. The original Star Wars movie was the scrappy upstart made out of, paper clips, rubber bands, and popsicle sticks. Like, get a bunch of people from the cast, have them dress up, like bounty hunters and scum and villainy, and they should have, like, really populated this room, make it practically the scene out of The Shining. They should have gone, like, all in on that sort of showmanship there. If you want to try immersive, have, like, a crowded bar, recreate that cantina scene from A New Hope, make the thing, the experience that people would probably want to have, surrounded by all this exotic stuff. Have, I imagine, like, big camera sweeps over, like, the exotic foods that you can only have in places like this. And then after that's over, you let the cast members who showed up for this shoot, they just get to eat the food. You could have, like, quick shots of the people enjoying the food, talking about how great it is. They don't even have to be influenced, but just like people in full costume eating the food. I honestly think that would be a good way. And I mean, that's just how you do a production. That's how you make a movie in college. You go to the drama department and you say, hey, I need some extras for a film I'm doing. There will be food. You just get catering and you will get people to show up. Like, I had a friend in college whose family owned a restaurant, and we just got big heaping trays of, like, dumplings and spring rolls and fried rice, and people turned out for that. I was able to get extras for my college films really easy. Are you really saying that Walt Disney World has less of an ability to draw a crowd of extras and create a show than I did in college? It's ridiculous how poor the production values on this are. Like, I would have had, like, the captain of the Star Cruiser, like, come out and greet the people and say, welcome aboard my ship, all of that. Maybe they hadn't cast the captain yet or something like that. But I feel like if they were trying to push an immersive angle, there is so much more that they could have done, and it would have cost them nothing. But I guess even nothing is too much, as Jenny kind of indicates on the trip. So the idea is that on the trip is basically a rolling 2 days. You arrive at the hotel at about 1 p.m. and get your room, and then you have the entire next day, and then you're basically kicked out of your room at 8 in the morning at the finale. So they say it's 2 days. It's a bit more like a day and a half. Jenny says it's about 26 hours is where she gets, like, her $2 a minute thing, because you arrive at 1 and the cantina finally closes at 11 to get the full, like, experience, and then basically it goes nothing from 11 until, like, 8 or 9 o'clock to get going. But according to Jenny, it was a breakneck thing. I mean, I don't know. It might have been because the movie she made is so long. The video is so long that I don't know if she ever correlated the fact that it's $2 a minute with the fact that everything is done at a breakneck pace, and it feels like there's just a whole lot that you're forced to do. Like, put those together and it sounds like an effort to give people their money's worth, but those are just sort of problems that compound upon each other. You make it so expensive that you make people feel the need to just cram everything into one go, and you don't really get anything, you don't get, like, a relaxing vacation out of it. I mean, they had, like, spots where you could relax, but, you're constantly feeling the weight of, I paid $6,000 to be here on your shoulders. I can imagine that is about as unbearable as the grueling ordeal that is apparently participating in all this. And Jenny talks about how things didn't work. The app didn't always line up. The Bluetooth didn't always line up. Things didn't always update correctly. Sometimes things updated wrong. I think, like I said, I think they tried to make this attraction too smart for its own good. They tried to do something connected to a phone app, which is asking for trouble. There's so much digital noise in there, and, like, GPS tracking is deliberately inaccurate. Like, it's always, like, a few feet off. So it's kind of difficult to locate people where they specifically are based on their cell phone signal. Some people actually would, like, turn off that accessibility and wouldn't really want it to happen. So, I like I said, I think it's too smart for its own good. I honestly think that this was, trying to impress shareholders, but I think it would have worked a lot better if it was stupid. If it was dumber. Like, I don't want a smart dishwasher. I want a stupid dishwasher that obeys my orders without question. Yes, it's time for Old Man Kodak. I remember back in the day when you wanted to microwave popcorn, you didn't have to connect your machine to the internet. You just put the bag inside and turn the dial and it was ready to go. God, I fear for our future like this. So apparently what this app also did was it tracked like interactions and loyalties and all sorts of crazy things to allegedly put you on your path. But Jenny talks about how so many times it just kind of messed up and it would just kind of throw her into random events. Like she actively tried to do first order, but it threw her into like resistance scenarios without her really trying because of just a massive breakdown on the scale. Honestly, I think that the system should have been a lot dumber. And by that, I mean it should have relied less on phones and more on direct interaction. So I did a video a while ago, a long time ago. I think the last time I ever went was about an event in the pirate area of Adventureland that Jenny actually, I don't think, talked about. It was one where you went around to the various locations surrounding the Pirates of the Caribbean ride, and you would put your sort of magic pass tag against different objects that would activate things in the crowd. She talks about versions of these, but not the one that I actually went to, where you actually, I actually like put it on my fist and like punched the things to activate them. But it would cause like little interactions. Apparently those are like a test bed for features like this. Honestly, I would have tied the gameplay more to that tag. Like anytime you want to go into a room, you have to like they could have had, like, if they wanted to have an immersive experience, I would have had, like, space customs to help, like, get the machine calibrated for each of these people, where they have to, like, walk up, they have their picture taken on a blank background, they have to say their name, and that, is what gets them into the system, and then they get to their room, they're told, like, oh, hey, you have some messages, like, the concierge takes you to your room. That is my understanding, where your luggage already is, that was another thing that the Magical Express did, which was so wonderful. But imagine if the concierge would like point you and say, hey, it looks like you have some messages. So one of the things that the individual rooms, the cramped little rooms, it had like an AI droid you could talk to about things. Imagine if that was also like a message system where when you went into your room, you got like videos from the three major factions. Like the actors would like have a performance like, greetings, I represent the First Order and I expect your cooperation in this ordeal. And then after that message plays, another one from the Resistance comes up and is like, don't listen to him, you must fight for the side of justice, there's only one galaxy. And then after that, the scoundrel appears like, haha, don't listen to either of those bozos, one galaxy, I say there is only one Han Solo, how about you work together with me? And you actually like hard choose the faction you're going to follow on that screen. And, it sort of like, by doing it without using a phone app, you actually do it like in a way that's hardwired to the system. And now the only thing that the game remembers is your name and your chosen faction. Keep it really simple. Jenny talks about how she speculates that all the actors have like earpieces that they're wearing that would like feed them information about who they're talking to. If it was just, oh, Kodak, alignment, resistance, and that's all they had to do, and then they just had actions that were done accordingly. And the other thing I would do is I would make it so that every event, every attraction works for every faction. Now, I'm basically turning some of the ideas on their head. Shouldn't your choices affect where you go? To sort of facilitate things, I would do it a little differently. Like when you choose your side, like if you chose the Resistance, you might be given a resistance, like a list of assignments that you can do. Like you might have a direct like resistance event thing, or you might be sent to spy on one of the other factions. Like imagine if you chose to side with the Resistance on your first day, like you choose when you enter the room and you get like maybe a chance to change your alignment at the end of the first day. You choose Resistance, but you decide to go to a First Order event as a spy. Now, the costumed person, they walk in, they have everybody's information. Like, they can check somebody and determine their allegiance. Like, if they look around, it's like, oh, that guy's First Order, that guy's First Order, that guy's First Order. Imagine if they ping somebody, one of the people in the crowd who's in that event, and it pings Resistance in the system. And then they could have this little scene where they like get really suspicious of this person, but then, like back off at the last minute, to give like this nice tense moment. Like imagine if you said, I went on the Star Cruiser, I joined the Resistance, but I snuck in to spy on a secret First Order meeting, but I almost got caught by the bad guy. How would that be for a thrilling immersive experience? That is the kind of experience that I think they were trying to have with the Star Cruiser, but they overthought everything and made too much spaghetti. If you had just a dumb system where anybody could choose any path, any of faction, and take any path through the ensuing few days, imagine if that was, and it could just sort of facilitate creating your own story. You just have a bit of that illusion magic applied a bit more over that. I think that would work a lot better. Although speaking of like the suited characters, one thing Jenny says that I do want to stress and I do want to applaud is she mentions how everybody who worked on the cruiser, all the boots on the ground, like the actual people who did like the concierge and the restaurants and the stores and the suited actors, she talks about how they all went above and beyond to try to make the experience as good as possible. And yeah, that is absolutely worth mentioning. I know way better than to disrespect people in the service industry. The failure of this thing was not because the people operating it didn't put in the effort. According to Jenny, everybody put in like maximum effort to try to make this work. It really was the high price and the stupid systems that were put into place that just did not function right for so many people. It's why I'm saying if they had dumbed it down a little bit, dumbed it down in the systems wise, not necessarily in the performance, but make it so that there's fewer levers to pull, so that those levers that they can pull bravely. That I think would have worked a lot more in favor for this thing.
Part 4, A New Hope.
Well, I got a little ahead of myself. I talked about how I would solve the problem. Now, the thing Jenny talks about is it's kind of impossible to repurpose this attraction into something else. It is a building designed with a very specific purpose. They cannot add more rooms because the big finale scene where there's a big lightsaber battle happens in the atrium, and you can only fit so many people in there. So it's not like you can try to up the capacity of the hotel. You can't try to make it into a regular hotel because it's in part of the backlot there, and you can't really try to make it into an attraction because it's too small to really handle too many people at once. I feel like, it got shut down really fast. The biggest problem was the price. I mean, yes, you have to pay like the special suit actors and stuff like that, and there's a very limited capacity for that, but and I know this isn't going to be like a big moment of realization for these folks. They're way too rich to pay attention to such things as common sense. But I think this is the first time that we've really seen people push back against the idea that these companies can just charge whatever they want for their experience. And Jenny stresses that a lot of the people who were on these, it wasn't just like affluent people. Like I remember speculating how I felt sorry for the cast and crew who had to work on this thing because they would have to be serving people willing to pay $6,000 for a 2-night stay. But apparently it's a lot of people who like really thought this was going to be like a once in a lifetime thing and really paid for it to try to get that experience, and wound up being largely disappointed because a lot of things just did not work correctly. So like I said, that's why my core suggestions were to dumb it down and try to make it simpler to use. Like make it so that there's only the allegiance variable is what's kept in place, and then you could do the things from your room to get updates and stuff like that. Figure out the missions you can do. Maybe you can get updates on your phone, but it should be a lot less dependent on any kind of app. But you can get missions. You can either do the missions for your faction or you can go spy on other factions. Jenny says she thinks they were thrown into certain events because they were trying to fill seats. That would be like the spy mission. So even though you go in and you go along with whatever's going on, you're given a reward. It's like if you were at the First Order, you're given a mission to go and spy. You think that a Jedi holocron has been snuck on board, so you are to infiltrate the meeting quietly, not make your presence known, and confirm the contents. And then after the mission is done, they're like, "Mwahaha! Good job! You have confirmed it. Kylo Ren himself sends his regards." That kind of thing. Make it literally like build it the way you might build like an old point and click adventure game. Make it so that there is a lot of ways for the suit actors to interact with the cast even when they aren't there. That would be things like having missions you can do at night, all sorts of things like that. But it's it is a bizarre thing to see all of the cuts and all of the weird decisions that went into this hotel. Like, there's a section about the window in order to see out the porthole. If you open the porthole to look at the lights outside, it activates these blinding LED lights nearby. So people are recommending bringing blue painter's tape to cover that up. That seems like something that should have been thought of. Like, maybe I assume the LEDs are there to try to make the illusion work better. But if they're worried about like screen glow, it's like these ships have lights on. You could assume that the glow is coming from the ship itself. I feel like they should have considered that maybe people would want to go to sleep with this window open, as a lot of people did, and have like an ambient setting where the lights around the porthole are a lot less intense. I really think that would have been a good idea, but this is the sort of thing where it's a pile of bad ideas and a bunch of cost cutting, like the shuttle to get to the parks. One of the things I theorized is that they wouldn't let you go to the park while you're locked inside. Turns out I was wrong. They will let you go into the parks for a spell on day 2, I guess, while they recuperate and clean things up. But apparently they take you there on like a cab and trailer like truck. Like, they shove you in there like you're a refugee and drive you there after spending $6,000 for this experience, just on the experience alone, not on travel or anything like that, or any of the products in the gift shop or anything. Jenny is like, would it be different if they had gutted a bus to do this instead? Yes, because then they could stylize up the bus to have like all the logos and stuff on it, all the Star Cruiser logos and stuff on it as they drive to where they're going to drop you off. And, you know, people could have seen it and been like, oh my gosh, those are the people off of the Star Cruiser. Oh, the Star Cruiser is so cool. Could have been like some additional advertising and things like that. But yeah, I think I generally agree with Jenny's assessment that this whole situation is one big step backwards for what Disney could do. It is a downgrade from stuff they had at the parks like about 15-20 years ago. It's going to be interesting to see if they try to do something themed like this again. I think they tried to be too smart for their own good. Like I said, I think there were so many incredibly stupid solutions that could have made this thing better. I not smart solutions, genuinely just stupid kludge solutions that could have made everything work so much better in this regard. Like, she talks about how there's a hotel in France that's basically the Star Cruiser, but it's only $200 a night. Like, I hope we see like more hotels like this. Like, she talks about, I think it's called Evermore, which was like a fantasy LARP thing, and they had they made their living originally as like a VR like entertainment thing that kind of went belly up when the apocalypse happened. I would love to see something like that. And you know what else I would love to see is there are people who make like virtual reality recreations of like defunct theme rides. I would love it if somebody made a version of this for the Star Cruiser, but it was like an old like 90s first person point and click adventure game. Like, I think there was one called like Undersea Adventure, but they were like places where you could like walk around in real time, and like there were like sprites of characters that were like 2D and were like those trees in Mario 64. They would like kind of rotate to face you. Like, imagine if there was a game based on the experience of the Star Cruiser, and you could actually like play through this sort of platonic ideal of what the Star Cruiser could have been at its peak. Like, you can actually keep track of like all of your things in real time. You have like interactions with the characters, you have like the mini games, you have all sorts of fun stuff you could do just sort of as this fun little free package. Like, it would work like Persona, where it's like, if you do this experience, then time will advance. Otherwise, you have all the time in the world to do whatever you want. I actually think that would be sort of a neat idea, although at this point, actually making it work would be a little bit like how they cobbled together the Shakespeare's plays off of like all of the footage everybody took of the events. That would be the only way we could get like the scripts and the designs and all of the fun things going on. But I think that would be like a worthwhile endeavor to do like a point and click adventure, first person point and click adventure remake of the Star Cruiser. I think that would actually be a lot of fun. I don't know how I would start such a project. It would probably be something like a Doom mod, if I'm being honest. That's probably what it would be, but might be worth a try. But yeah, honestly, the Star Cruiser is something that fascinates me. I think it's pretty fair. Like as an entertainer, I don't think this was really a revolutionary idea. We've had things like immersive hotels and things like that, for years and years and years, practically since Disney's opening. I don't think this was overly ambitious. I think it was overly priced and too smart for its own good. There would easily be ways for people to make a similarly immersive experience with way less tech. I guess we need a new like Star Wars level scrappy upstart to really make that happen.
Part 5. The Empire Strikes Back.
Okay, so it's been a few days now since Jenny's video came out, and already we have been seeing the exact types of responses that she not only showed in her video, but also basically predicted and called out. A lot of people who said that her video, as thorough as it is somehow disingenuous. I've been there. But, it's the ones that they got back. Like, Jenny herself reported that one of the responses she got was the reason that she wasn't put on the path she wanted is because she had brought a camera. I know, right? How dare somebody bring a camera to Walt Disney World, the most magical place on Earth? I mean, this one is super easy to debunk too, right? I mean, to get onto the ship, you actually have to go through a weapons check where they will confiscate anything that resembles like a gun or a sword or anything like that. They will take that away. And if cameras were against the rules on this, again, $6,000 trip, then those would have been confiscated at weapon check as well. Whole thing does not check out. And Jenny wasn't just like walking around with a camera. She'd actually created a character that was like a space reporter, and it was meant to tie in with the shtick of her character. They do encourage people to dress up, and she did. So that one doesn't work. Another one we got was, an article that, it's the typical talking point of, oh, this thing failed because of those mean, nasty, dirty old reviewers. Couldn't you think of the crew when you made those mean reviews? I'm sorry, but Jenny went out of her way to explicitly say that all of the boots on the ground, all of the on-site staff, went above and beyond to generate an incredible experience. The problem is, they were fighting an uphill battle against a flawed and overpriced design. It's a standard talking point. You see it all the time, where when something fails, people blame bad reviews and not the management. When something doesn't go right, it is a problem with the management. The higher-ups did something wrong and failed everybody below them. That is the harsh truth. Also, gotta love how this article that, says that, oh, it's these mean reviewers who caused the hotel to fail, they say that they worked for it for a while, but this is somebody who, posts Star Wars articles, twice a day, and they never mention anywhere in the article, any specific experiences they had. Like, Jenny had several that she gave, and she only went once. This person was apparently there for 8 months and couldn't mention, one big memorable moment. Not a single time where they, found a small hat and put it on kids' plush, brought out, a little water bowl to drink, like Jenny said. Like, Jenny pointed out all of these little touches that made memorable moments, and this person who wrote this rebuttal article couldn't name one. Well, okay, they mentioned one. They mentioned the event closing.
Part 6. The Return of the Jank.
Okay, I know how the title of this section sounds, but no, there is no news about them bringing back the Star Cruiser. Part of it is, it was just too expensive. Jenny has a whole section that I've already mentioned about how the building was specifically designed in such a way that it cannot be effectively repurposed for anything else. She does propose sort of a nighttime dinner where all of the rooms get sort of cut off, used for storage, maybe even demolished entirely. But, the ship is open for tours while it's at dock, and they still have all the big moments. They have the dinner with the singing, they have some of the activities, they have the big finale, which she said was actually really good. I do kind of like how the finale was put together. Does it justify an entire stay? No, that is according to Jenny. But this is not the only experience that's like this. There are all sorts of LARPs. I mean, we have technically had these sorts of experiences since the introduction of Scarborough Fair, so it's not at all uncommon to find experiences that go for this sort of immersive activity, although, as Jenny says, a lot of them are sort of like murder mystery dinners. Apparently there's a place called Secret Cinema in London that has these kinds of events. It would not at all surprise me if we found more stuff like this in places like Tokyo or Dubai. I mean, I know Tokyo has like themed hotels based on animes and stuff like that. It would not at all surprise me if there were things like that. Somebody said they should do a Star Trek version. There was one of those in Las Vegas for a while. I mean, there is all sorts of ways to do this idea better and do it cheaper. Jenny said that if this was $1,000, like $500 a night, she would probably have paid for it. If somebody can figure out how to deliver this experience without the bulleted app. Like I said, it's not that this experience was a bad idea. My statement was that this experience was trying to be too smart for its own good. Make it a little dumber, make it a little simpler, make it so that, you know, there's sort of binary choices that players can make, or like easy things that, you know, things that can be easily set up. You know, things can be done in character. Anybody can do any event. You just change the context around how that event happens. It doesn't strike me as a particularly difficult thing to do. So yeah, I guess that is my thoughts on the Star Cruiser matter. Like I said, I looked at it for a while, and I thank Jenny for offering the insights that I previously did not have. I would love to know if there are more experiences like this out there that I could compare this against. That I think is probably the biggest shortcoming in either of our videos. So I would love to hear about that. And yeah, that's all I have to say. And until next time, this is Kodak signing off.